Hello everyone, welcome to ManageEngine's live on AIOps, what it is and why it is relevant to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Cyril, I'm a senior evangelist for ManageEngine's ITOM suite of solutions, and along with me I have Sharon, who is a senior solutions consultant again for ManageEngine's ITOM suite of products, who also recently happened to write a white paper on everything AIOps that you should definitely check out. So before we begin, we're going to quickly talk about what exactly AIOps is and why does it matter. What is AIOps?
Sure. So AIOps, well, it stands for AI in IT operations. So it essentially brings together AI, machine learning, big data analytics with IT operations as we know it. So it redefines the way we look at IT operations, and it helps us enhance the process of monitoring, managing and running the service side of IT. And it's something that we cannot miss because given the hype around AI and everybody's talking about it, we're seeing rapid development, and that has brought a certain sense of awareness around AI in IT operations, because organizations are starting to realize, well, that's a trend I cannot miss out on if I want to have the competitive edge.
Definitely. In fact, you mentioned in your white paper about Gartner projecting AIOps market size to grow to $2.1 billion in 2025 with a compounded annual growth rate of 19%. And those are some impressive numbers for technology. What's interesting, however, is that even in our recent survey, we see 66% of organizations worldwide lack a clear understanding of AIOps and its use cases. In fact, I remember this May, I was at a large tech conference in Toronto and I was presenting on AI in IT operations management, and 70% of the people in the room, when asked why they showed up for that particular session, they just raised their hands for AI. They saw the word AI in the title and they want to know more about it and what it can do to help alleviate the day-to-day challenges that they face when it comes to IT operations. Right? So what exactly is the impact of artificial intelligence in IT operations management?
Definitely. If we are starting off with understanding how this new conundrum or how this new technology can impact our businesses, the first impact is predictive and proactive monitoring.
That sounds great.
Definitely, because until now we're used to coming to know about an issue only when it impacts our end users or if we see a critical server going down. But with AIOps, you get to know about the issue before it can actually impact the end user experience or before it can actually impact your network. Well, that's a pretty good game changer, don't you think?
Definitely, and that is just one side of the story, right? There's of course some things that AI enables after that as well. But the most pressing question right now is, why AI? I have traditional monitoring solutions in place that just do the work for me. Why should I look at AI and why should I think about implementing or adopting it in my organization?
Definitely, because bringing in AI is going to be a big change for a lot of organizations that are not ready for it yet. But when you look at it, your current monitoring tools are doing the job. Great. They're giving you the metrics, they're alerting you, they even have a lot of advanced features, but what do you do with these alerts? You know there's an issue, and well, worst case scenario, it's going to cost you a lot of support tickets from your end users maybe. So what are you going to do with that?
We've all been there, helped us getting flooded with tickets.
Definitely. But with AI in the mix, it's going to give you the sense of contextualization. It's going to tell you, hey, this is the alert, this is where it's going wrong, and this is why it's going wrong. And that's important if you're trying to bring down the MTTR, which can be pretty costly if you cannot fix an issue in time.
And that makes sense. That definitely pleads the case for artificial intelligence as opposed to traditional monitoring solutions. But it's really hard for you to trust something that you don't fully understand. And trusting AI to do all of this that is actually really critical for your organization, how does one do that?
Well, definitely, because AI has the black box effect. You're feeding in data, you're getting some output, but what happens in the middle can be a little bit of a mystery to a lot of us.
Definitely.
Because when we talk about implementing AI in IT operations, it means we're going to be feeding it a lot of data, a lot of our IT data, and we don't know what's happening in the mix. And this data is going to be somehow processed. AI is going to understand this data. AI is going to identify patterns. It's going to analyze how this data is changing according to the situation, and it's going to tell out the results. But if you want to truly, have this trust on the machine, I would definitely recommend choosing a solution that gives you the transparency of what happens behind the scenes. Because, for example, with our solutions, we have our in-house team that has developed the algorithm, and our team can help you understand what's exactly happening, because essentially we bring in the mathematical aspect, we bring in the statistical aspect, we bring in the aspect of collecting the data, analyzing the data, and then reflecting the output based on what we see from that data. And if you want to truly understand and truly believe what AI can do, you need to have someone helping you out, at least in the foundational starting phases.
All right, so if I understand this correctly, AI is ideally just mathematical solutions to identify and predict patterns in your data, right? So it's going to process all of that information, mimic human intelligence while it's at it, to enable you to arrive at actionable insights. And that's incredible, because at the end of the day, if you are able to do that, if you're able to sift through the noise and identify what you need to act on and how you need to act on it, that's going to drive efficiency, right?
Definitely. Because I think our users would agree with us, even our viewers. Because when I say AI, well, automation is something that comes to your mind on an instant. And what says operational efficiency better than automation?
Precisely.
And when you have a tool like AIOps, which is AIOps enabled, you leverage or harness the intelligence of AI to carry out automations, be it process automations, be it workflow automations. You have AI doing it. And when you have AI automating the monotonous tasks, your IT team can now have that space to focus on more strategic decision making. And your IT team can focus on things that can actually have an impact on your network's scalability, agility, and different concepts like that. So AI brings that efficiency in, and that efficiency is not going to just be time efficiency or resource efficiency, it's also going to translate into cost efficiency. And
precisely, that's a major concern for CXOs at the moment. There's also this area that is kind of unexplored, where there's a rising fear of costs increasing when you try to implement artificial intelligence in your organization. In fact, we ran a recent survey on the state of ITOM, and 45% of organizations around the world who participated in that survey are concerned about rising implementation costs around AIOps. Of course, the hype around it is real, and we understand that it brings a lot of benefits, but the real question is, it all boils down to how you should approach implementing AI in your organization, and what exactly is the most cost-effective method to approach that implementation, right? Whether it's build or buy.
well, that's the question to ask, isn't it? Because, well, sounds great. I can, convince people saying there's a lot of benefits. Hey, you don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on this. Are you willing to spend? Are you going to invest? Can you invest? And build versus buy is the question that comes first in mind. Because when we talk about AI, we do not see a lot of standardization in the market right now. And well, every vendor gives you a certain benefit, and it depends from vendor to vendor. So you do not have this, okay, I can migrate from this vendor to this vendor if I want to. That we are not in that stage yet. So many organizations are considering whether to build or buy. And well, frankly speaking, if you're building, you have a certain pros to it and cons to it. And if you're buying, well, you also have a certain set of pros and cons to it. So organizations need to evaluate based on where they stand, and if they can prioritize this as a project priority, and if they can invest on it.
That's an interesting thought, right? So you understand that AIOps will enable you to further your strategic initiatives, but now you're faced with this huge decision: should I build or should I buy? And let's approach this and break it down for an instance. Let's say I am planning to build an AIOps solution on my own. What should be some of my considerations, and what would be my biggest challenge?
Well, your biggest challenge is definitely going to be data.
Definitely.
Let's face it, data is everywhere, and a lot of us do not have a very standardized data collection, storage, governance, and all of that going on. Most of us might even be completely new to it. And data collection and storage is essentially the foundational requirement for AIOps, because this is what is going to determine the efficiency and the effectiveness, and most importantly, the accuracy of the algorithms that you're running for AIOps. And yeah, that is going to be a huge investment, not just in cost-wise, even resource-wise, because you need to first understand if you have the enough and the right resources to build the project. Or if you do not have them, so how am I going to acquire them? Are you going to hire new folks? That's going to cost you, of course. Are you going to train them? Well, that's also another cost. And well, AI just doesn't stop that, because well, AI is a very modern technology, but with that we also have to focus on the hardware that goes behind building it. That can be pretty costly, don't you agree?
Definitely, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of upfront costs and hidden costs that you cannot anticipate while you're trying to adopt a new technology to drive business outcomes. In fact, I know an organization that started off on the path of building something that would allow them to be more data-driven, because traditionally they were not data-driven, right? And after this whole pandemic fiasco, they had to shift their business model to a more digitally focused business model, and that really helped them. And they understood that they need to be more data-driven when it comes to their IT operations to drive those strategic outcomes. And in that process, they started by trying to build a CMDB. They tried to adopt a two-tier architecture to enable better instrumentation, because if it's garbage in, it's garbage out, right? So they tried to build all of that, and somewhere along the way, they realized that, you know, maybe we should switch trajectories and check out if there are vendors already available in the market who would provide the capabilities that we require. And that's how they stumbled upon ManageEngine. And in fact, they've incorporated ManageEngine solutions into their organization, and they are leveraging our AI-powered capabilities to further their business outcomes. So what exactly happened here? I'm sure they started off on the right path, and then they switched to adopting a solution that's out there, right? And that again, I think ties down to understanding whether you should build or buy. And what exactly is your take on that?
Well, definitely, because well, starting up, building your own solution, yeah, there are cons to it, but when you think about it, the aspect of customization, building a solution that is tailor-made for your network, sounds pretty convincing. I mean, definitely, because if you're really good at it, why not do it? But if you're really new to it, or if this concept is completely foreign to your organization, you might face a lot of hurdles that you're not willing to take up on. And that is where the vendors step in, because with vendors, if you choose to buy your own solution, you do not just buy this software that you can download, install and run. You are buying their expertise in that domain. You're leveraging the support teams that can help you, that can even handhold you if you're completely new to it. And that helps you, you know, leverage that expertise that's already there, and that's a lot cost efficient, don't you think?
Absolutely. And in fact, when you choose a vendor, they're going to be a long-term partner. So there are a lot of considerations there as well. Now let's try and understand what the business impact of adopting AIOps is in your organization. We extensively discussed about buying versus building a solution, and I'm sure our audience would find all of the information that you provided in the white paper really useful. But when it comes to the business impact model and where an organization is on the AIOps maturity scale, right, that you've so neatly explained in your white paper, could you just walk us through the maturity model?
Definitely. So our maturity model, folks, is based on the process optimization of the AIOps platform that that organizations might implement or deploy in their infrastructure, and we've mapped it with the actual business goals or the actual business benefits that have been realized by the implementation. So there are 5 stages in the model. We start with the experimental phase, and then we finally reach the evolved and optimized phase. So for now, let's get
stages. That's a lot of stages, and it starts with experimentation. Why don't you get us off on that?
Sure. So in the experimental phase, we see organizations starting to be aware, or the awareness of AI in IT operations is being discussed in the discussion tables, because organizations can be completely new to it. They might not, like we've pointed out, 45% still do not know the use cases. So they might all be in this phase, and it is in this phase where we see discussions around the topic coming up. we see, well, should I implement or should I not implement? We see the questions like build versus buy being asked, and it is in this phase where we start the process of rolling out pilot projects. So it's essentially the baby steps, the first step towards adding AI to the mix of IT operations.
And that sounds interesting. So you're trying to figure things out. What next?
Well, once you have crossed the experimental phase, we have the modeling phase. And like the name suggests, this is where you start to model your deployment to suit your organization. And this phase can be exceptionally difficult if you're building your own solution, because, well, again, the data, the hardware, the resources, all of this is to be focused in this phase. And organizations would start with pilot projects. And pilot projects do not essentially have to be organization-wide. They can be to a particular group of people in a particular location doing a particular set of tasks. And based on that outcome, we decide, or we start to understand what are the business benefits we can realize out of this implementation. And organizations start mapping these benefits. But again, this is just the second step. So we are a long way from actually, getting back the ROI or realizing the business benefits that we have mapped. So that's the modeling phase.
And that takes us to the operational phase.
Definitely. And well, like you suggested, if you're choosing to buy your own solution, you essentially skip the experimental phase or the modeling phase, because, well, your vendor would have done the heavy lifting for you there. And you directly go to the operational phase where you can just buy the solution and you can run it in your environment. And in the operational phase, we see pilot projects starting to merge into a singular project, or 2 or 3 more projects based on your organization's size and scale. And once that's done, we start to realize some of the benefits like process automations, workflow automations, and remediations, and even root cause analysis. So
that sounds interesting, actually.
Definitely. So this is the phase we see all of this coming together, and we start to actually have AI in action in our IT operations.
And to get from experimentation all the way to operational, I think that's going to take a bit of time. And I personally believe that in the modeling phase is where a lot of organizations tend to fail, because they do not realize the outcomes that they're expecting. So it's also important to set the right expectations and set the right timeline, right? And so far, we've only covered 3 of the maturity stages, and there's 2 more. Tell us a bit more about that.
Definitely. So we have the next stage, which is the managed state. Like the name suggests, in the managed phase, AI pretty much manages your IT operations. So it's not just giving you recommendations, it's not just going to be like doing the automations you set up it to do, but it's going to orchestrate the whole process. We see AI orchestrating the IT operations process. So your team is technically holding hands with AI. They're going to be the human in the loop. We see the HCL process being predominant in this phase because, well, AI can manage, it can orchestrate, but you still have to have that human oversight as to, well, if things are going the way it should be going. And managed phase can be a difficult phase to achieve even for organizations choosing to build or buy, because it requires a lot of knowledge maturity. You need to understand your network first. Your AI needs to understand your network first, and the algorithms should be effective enough for your organizations to step into that phase.
That sounds really interesting, because I think that's where we all want to be when we expect to achieve our return on investment, right? We can expect more efficiency in terms of identifying problems and acting on it proactively. All you have to do is just click a button and it's going to run the right runbooks, the right scripts to fix that particular problem. And that would ultimately enable organizations to achieve their strategic outcomes. Let's say customer experience is a priority and you're a finance institution, you need your online portals to work properly. And when something goes down or if something is slow, you do not want to be left in the blind until a help desk ticket pops up. And artificial intelligence in this particular stage would identify the problem, would let you know that you need to run a particular script to fix it, or you need to reroute your traffic, or you need to restart your server. So it's going to let you know all of that, and you can just do with the click of a button. And managed state sounds impressive, right? But then there's one more step further to this entire maturity model, and that is optimized and evolving stage. What exactly is that?
Well, optimized and evolving. Let me just give you or running. This stage is a little too far for us, because it is in this stage we see AI becoming a core part of any organization's operations. So organizations are technically gonna have AI as a part of their desk meetings, their board meetings, any meetings you call, because AI is gonna completely manage, it's gonna monitor, and it's gonna make sure your IT is running the way it should be. Because AI, in this phase, we do not see a lot of human hand-holding. We do not expect human in the loop, because AI is going to orchestrate, it's going to manage, and it's going to be pretty much autonomous in the way your IT operations work out. So it is in this phase we see decision makers totally depending on the outputs they receive from AI, and they're going to use this as a part of the decision making process. There's not going to be an intermediary person telling you like, hey, my system told me that, maybe you should look into it. Because your system is going to be in the desk telling you what is actually happening. And that phase is where organizations are ready for the next big revolution.
That sounds amazing, and we are definitely heading there. It might be a bit further into the future, but that's where we want to be when we expect value out of artificial intelligence, and your entire organization is going to be able to operate in an autonomous state, and your IT teams can focus on other high-value initiatives. Thank you so much, Sharon, for walking us through the entire maturity model. And that last stage that you mentioned sounds really interesting, almost like a fantasy. But considering the rate at which AI is developing, none of us heard about generative AI just the past 5-10 years ago, I guess. And it has taken the world by storm. And artificial intelligence is going to be an integral part to ensure business success. And organizations that get to this stage definitely have a huge advantage, right? And when you think about enabling autonomous operations, think of all the manual tasks that you can just get out of your workload. That seems interesting. And guys, you should definitely check out the white paper that Sharon has written. It will tell you all about artificial intelligence in IT operations, the build versus buy, the maturity model is discussed in detail. So you can read it, inform your thoughts, your own thoughts and opinions on this matter, and arrive at the best decision possible for your organization. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been such a wonderful audience. Thank you so much, Sharon, for taking us through the entire world of AI ops. And do feel free to follow us on ManageEngine ITOM on LinkedIn, on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Have a great day.